Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing good today. Wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about a question I get quite a bit, which is how to understand whether debt or equity is right for your business, whether you're a startup or an existing business. It can vary depending on the different stages that you're at. So I want to run through some input I have for you on that. First of all, just to clarify, debt is when you get loans from lenders or private equity and things like that. And investors, obviously, is when you're raising money through angel investors and venture capitalists and those kinds of folks, or friends and family rounds, those kinds of things. So today we're going to talk about a few things that will help you understand when it's right to go for debt and when it's right to go for investors, to try and land investors to fund the growth of your business. Now, the first thing to understand is that uh, unique ideas drive this decision. Here's what I mean. So if you have a very unique idea, it doesn't mean that no one in the marketplace is doing it, but it may mean that only a few people are competing against you. If you truly have a unique idea, or at least a different way of doing business with a type product or service, then generally speaking, an investor is going to be right for you. If you're just running an average everyday business that there's plenty of competition on, maybe you're doing a cleaning service, there's nothing wrong with those models, by the way. But if you're doing an average everyday business that most people have heard of or might use a product or service like that, then most likely it's going to be more appropriate for you to go for lenders, loans in these cases. Again, some of these things I'm going to say could be a little bit skewed depending on where you're at. And I am making some generalizations, but most businesses that are sort of average every day would be most appropriate to go for loans. If you have a really unique idea, something that may not be being done in the marketplace or is being done a little bit differently with your type of solution, then most likely investors are going to be right for you. So a unique idea, if you have one, will push you toward investors. Now, the other thing you want to do is you want to understand some of the differences between how lenders work versus how investors work. A lot of people go into it thinking they're going to go straight for investors. It may not be right for them. They don't even understand what that deal is going to look like in the first place. So let me give you a couple ways that investors and lenders do things differently. If you're willing to give up equity, meaning ownership in your business, then going through investors is going to be the right path forward. If you don't want to give up any equity whatsoever, then you're going to want to apply for loans, because lenders don't take equity in your business. They get repaid through interest on the principal of the loan that they give you. Whereas typically investors don't get paid interest. They only get paid when you exit your idea, or meaning you sell out to someone. So investors take equity, lenders get paid back through interest. So depending on whether you're willing or not to give up ownership in your business, that'll also push you one way or the other. Another thing to think about is whether you're willing to give up any control whatsoever. Now, I'm not implying that investors are going to come take your business from you. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But if you're not willing to give up any say-so in how the business operates, then it's most likely that investors aren't the right path for you. With lenders, they give you the loan and they check in with you every few months to see how you're doing. Once a year, you have to provide them a financial update, and they let you go about your business. They don't have any say-so in what goes on inside your business as long as you're paying them back. Investors, on the other hand, some investors, depending on the stage you're at and the type of business you're in, may ask to have a seat on your board of advisors. They may ask to be actively involved in the business. So if you don't want to relinquish any sort of control or any sort of say-so in your business, then investors would not be the right path for you. Going for a loan would be the right path for you. I mentioned we were going to talk about that here in just a second. So the other thing is to understand that with investors, they are a good choice if you want to add some expertise to your business that you don't already have. So here's going back to what I said about lenders. Lenders are not actively involved in the day in and day out operations of your business. However, if you're looking to add expertise to your business that you don't have at all, and that is one of the main benefits that investors bring to the table. A lot of people get focused on landing investors strictly for the money that they can inject into the business. Certainly that's important, but investors bring lots of other things to the table. Hopefully, if you find the right investor, if they've got expertise in your industry, you want them on your team. If they have contacts in your industry, you want them on your team. If they know other investors, they can bring them to the table. You want them on your team. So that also should go into your decision whether you're going to seek debt or equity funding. If you want to add expertise to your team, maybe your board of advisors or something like that, or a mentor, someone you can call on, then going with an investor is the right path. If you don't care about that, then going the loan route would be another good path. Also, knowing whether or not you're going to need what we call follow-on rounds of funding, so meaning more funding past the first round of funding. If you go with a lender and you get a loan, it doesn't mean you can't go back to them to borrow more money, but if you're borrowing more money too soon, it kind of looks bad. It looks like the business is not running so well. Whereas many investors expect that. They expect that they're going to be asked to invest in a subsequent round because most likely the first round of funding they do with you is only going to push you through certain milestones and only help you accomplish certain things. They expect that you're probably going to come back to them and ask for more money. So again, how to decide whether debt or equity is right for you. If you feel like you're going to need subsequent rounds of funding, if your projections, hopefully you've done those, if your projections tell you you're going to need more money past the first round of funding, then going the investor route might be the better path for you. Another thing to think about is, and I sort of alluded to this, but I want to speak to it a little bit differently, is if your idea is high growth, right? Because we have to think about what investors want in the first place. We talked earlier that they take equity in your business and they're looking for an exit to recoup that investment plus a multiple of that investment. If your idea is high growth and is going to scale and grow pretty quickly, then typically you want to think about going with investors. If it's sort of a mature market where there's plenty of competition and lots of other folks out there and you're going to grow, but you're not going to grow super fast, then typically lenders might be the best route to go. So I hope these suggestions give you a sort of a framework of which to make your decision. These are all things you should be thinking about. Unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs out there, when they need funding, they just run right out and start asking for investors. I talked about that in a previous episode.